Corner, episode 50. I'm Austin.
And I'm Caleb.
And today, first of all, shout out to us for going 50 episodes. Woohoo!
Whoop, whoop.
Well, I don't think we're actually ever going to really talk about that until for a while now. We have a 1-year special plan, so stay tuned for that. May as well mention it now. On the last episode, I mentioned and said that maybe one day we would do a normal episode again. Today is not the day. And neither will next week be as well. We're going to do episode 50 and 51 as interviewing each other, asking each other some fun questions. And today is Caleb's turn to answer the questions. He opted for that, and so I've curated some questions that will be hopefully fun that we haven't really talked about. I tried to do stuff that we haven't really talked about on the podcast yet over the course of, I guess, 50 episodes. So, without further ado, but I guess, make sure to rate and review the show, like and subscribe if you're on YouTube, ring the bell, share it to your friends, family, and anybody who listens to podcasts or watch podcasts, whatever, float your boat pretty much. I think we should just jump right in, yeah?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay, cool. I'm not going to make you introduce yourself because we did a whole podcast about that. I think that that's dumb. And at this point, you probably know something about Caleb and I both, as we've been talking into microphones for quite a while at this point. So, something that I want to talk about is you talked a little bit about on the last episode, which was brainstorming with Caddy Corner. You talked a little bit about like music and how you're going after that. I'm not going to go and like quiz you on that because it's not time yet. But what I want to ask is favorite artist currently and all time and why?
My current favorite artist, his name is Michael Hardy, and he used to be a country artist, still is, I would consider, but used to be like a country music songwriter for a long time. He wrote a bunch of songs he's written songs for Florida Georgia Line, Luke Combs, Morgan Wallen, all of them, you name them. I think he has like 15 number ones, like of songs that he's written. And then I think around 2018, he came out with his first studio album, like with songs that he wrote and recorded. And it was like so killer. He was like such a good country artist. And then he just came out with an album just this past year where he was kind of like transitioning over from like country to like country rock and roll, I call it. So it's like he writes country songs with like country lyric songs with heavy metal
Influence.
Yeah, heavy metal like music behind it. And it's so sick. I think it's like so cool whenever people can do things like that and be successful at it, because there's not very many times where people experiment with like new genres of music and it actually works and it actually like they can get success off of that. And so from enjoying his music before to being able to enjoy, I guess you can consider like the real him, you know, I think that is why he's my favorite artist right now. But he's also just like a killer dude. And his concerts are like insane. And so, favorite current artist, definitely him. Favorite artist of all time, though, that's a tough question. I have like so many people who've like influenced my sound, I guess, whenever it comes to recording music and like what I actually enjoy to play. But I think that my favorite all time musician is Gene Simmons of Kiss. And that is because Kiss is my favorite band of all time. But Gene Simmons, he plays bass for the band Kiss, and he is the one who really got me into music anyway. Because, I mean, I've had guitars for a long, long time. But like whenever I had guitars whenever I was a kid, I never played them. Like they were just wall art, you know? And then I finally got introduced to the band Kiss and like fell in love with just the whole like get up. I love the sound, I love the makeup, I love the outfits, I love the lyrics, I love everything about it. And then like I didn't know anything about music. I just liked the way that it sounded. And then you learn the individual artist like of a band. And then like you learn their individual stories, and then that is just like a whole like train like snowball effect into like something huge. But I like really like Gene Simmons caught my eye. And I loved his instrument. I loved the bass guitar. I loved the way that it sounded. I loved the way that it looked. It was like 4 strings. It's simple. I was like, I'm gonna get a bass guitar and I'm gonna start playing the bass. And so like really whenever I first started playing music, I started on the bass guitar. And so I think that is probably why he's my favorite of all time, because he's really the one that got like just like opened my eyes to the world of music in general.
Not bad. The reason why I asked is because that question actually came from, I don't know if you saw or not, and I don't know if you know who Theo Von is. He's a comedian and stuff.
Yeah.
He just did a podcast with Hardy. That's why I asked you that question. So you know that now.
I did not know that he did that.
Just came out like 2 days ago.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Because those are like my 2 favorite dudes in the whole world.
Yeah, dude.
Theo Von and Hardy are like, that's crazy.
Yeah. So you'll listen to that eventually, I imagine.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you and then this is kind of another question that I wanted to ask. You kind of answered the next question that I had. Really was, how do you draw inspiration from those artists that you like? I hate idolize, but idolize or whatever. You kind of answered that, and so the next thing that I want to ask is, through the process, and you don't have to answer this like super in depth if you don't want to, but through the process that you've had so far working on songs, and even like in high school with the whole process, right? What has been something that was more difficult than you expected it to be in the music making process?
For me, it's always been lyrics. It's so like musical melodies, I guess you can call them, like have always come pretty easy for me. I mean, pretty much anytime I have like a guitar in my hands, I'm not playing songs that already exist. You know, I'm just like fooling around, you know, messing, doing whatever I feel like doing at the time, and then you're like, oh, that sounded cool, like let me write that down or whatever so I don't forget it. And so like that's something that's been happening for a long time, but something that hadn't been happening for a long time was the whole lyrics thing. And it was always like really tough, because I mean, I wouldn't say that I've been in bands before, but like I have messed around with like other dudes who played musical instruments, and like we've tried to write songs before, and the music is the furthest that we got, you know, because like nobody knew how to write lyrics. And I think with writing more lyrics now, it is more of a thing where what makes it harder is trying to come up with something that you don't have any personal connection with, you know? So like whenever you write a song, like that song has to be something that you actually believe. It has to be something that you actually feel, because the whole point of a song is to make somebody feel a certain way, you know? It's the same as like a video or like anything else, you know? It's, you want somebody to feel a certain way, and so whenever you're writing a song, you have to word the lyrics around what the vibe and like what the feeling of the song is. But if you don't care about what the lyrics are saying, then you're not going to focus on what you're saying and how you're saying it, you know? So like it has to be intentional, and that is something that I've learned with writing more lyrics, is like everything that I write now has like a place in my heart, you know? So that is kind of how the process goes, you know? Like you come up with something, like for me, most of the time how it goes is I'll come up with something and I'm like, that could be something, you know, like if it's just like a phrase, or if it's like I come up with like a hook in my head or whatever, that's where it starts, you know, and then you just build off of that foundation. But whatever you start with has to be something that like you feel, you know, and like as soon as you have the idea, whatever you come up with is like that feeling that you got right then is usually how you want to make the listeners feel or the audience feel. And so that's kind of, you just go in that direction.
Fair enough. This is my last question, and I just kind of came up with it as you were answering that question there. You mentioned that whenever you write the song, you got to feel it, which is, you know, you just said that basically. Do you think that that's something that music lacks in general?
Yeah, But no. So like the artists that you listen to, that you hear on the radio or that have number one hits or whatever, those songs are not songs that they wrote. Songwriters wrote those songs and then they give them to somebody or sell them to somebody to sing. And so whenever you think about it like that, then the person who is singing the song, that's not their story. That's not how they feel, but the person who wrote that song, that is how they feel. So I think yes and no. Like the songs that, I don't know, whoever you like to listen to, whatever they're singing is not exactly what they feel or how they feel or even something that they've been through or whatever, but it is something that somebody feels because somebody wrote it. You can tell whenever somebody is like, you can tell whenever a song has been written from the heart and when a song has been written for like money or like, oh, this is like I have this really catchy line.
It's good for the radio.
So let me use it 100 times. Like you can tell whenever there's like a story songwriter and whenever there's like just here's a catchy chorus, I'm going to sing it 15 times and then the song's going to end.
Yeah.
So
I think it's an interesting way to think about it. This is really the last one that's music related because I think it's interesting too. You mentioned Hardy, which you like a lot, obviously.
Yeah.
Who are some other guys? And I just want to like hit you with names because like this is like what has become at least a big part of like my For You page. Every time it's summer, it gets like this. It's a lot of country artists kind of start to kind of come out of thin air. It seems because it's kind of like the vibe, especially like where we live.
Yeah.
Because that's like the anyway. What are your Zach Bryan thoughts?
I was just talking about this the other day. I really like Zach Bryan. I really like him. I really think that like the songs that he writes are from the heart, and like you can tell whenever he sings, he's like singing from deep in there, And some of his stuff I really like, but I think a lot of his stuff sounds very similar. And I know it's like so hard writing stuff that sounds different than like things that have already been written before because everything that you could ever imagine has pretty much already been done before, But it's like every chord progression, it can be changed slightly to where it's like different. So like no song is the same, but like songs are the same.
Sure.
And so I think that he finds himself there a lot. I think that if you put on a Zach Bryan Essentials playlist, you can hear a song and be like, did I just hear this one?
Mm-hmm.
And like, cool. I think that that's like, if that's what you're into, because then like on the other side of that, if you find your sound that makes you successful and you find a fan base that loves what you do and like the way that you do it, then it's like, why change what you're doing, because at the end of the day, these are the people who are making you money. And if 60% of the population hates Zach Bryan, but he has like a 40% fan base that is like willing to listen to whatever he comes out with, then it's like, let's just make this 40% really happy and like screw the 60, And so I think that like another dude who people argue is the same way as Morgan Wallen. Like a lot of people say that all Morgan Wallen's songs sound the same. He just came out with a new album, 36 songs, and they say that he wrote the same song 36 times. And it's like, but he knows what works. He knows what gets the girls going. He knows like all these things, and he does it. And like, what do you know? All of his stuff is popping because all of the girls are listening to his music. So it's like, he doesn't care that all of his songs sound the same, just like Zach Bryan doesn't care that all of his songs sound the same because it doesn't matter because their fans are still going to listen to it because that's what they enjoy. Like they enjoy the Morgan Wallen sound. They enjoy the Zach Bryan sound, And so, yeah, that's where I kind of sit on that.
Sweet.
Yeah.
That's all I have for music. The next section that I want to talk about to you here is it's like on my notes, it's labeled as creative, but basically everything outside of music. And I think it has to start kind of at the inception point. At least I think you can take it further back if you want to. But the question that I want to ask is, what drew you to the studio in high school? in the first place?
Well, it's kind of like a whole situation. So, I've been a pretty creative person, I would say, for a majority of my life. I was like a pretty creative kid. I loved like coloring books and like art. Like I like to draw. But then I kind of got into like stop motion movies or whatever, because I loved Legos too whenever I was a kid. So I would build these Lego scenes or whatever, and then I would make little stop motion movies with the little Lego scenes. And I think that is really where it started, like the love for creating things. And then it kind of like fell off during middle school because, it was like weird to do that kind of stuff. Like if you weren't like playing video games or sports, then like you were the weird kid,
Mm-hmm.
And so it kind of like fell off right then. And then after middle school, I ended up transferring to South because of like this whole situation. And I had to transfer through an academy. And so like at South, it was the Communications Academy. And so I was on the transfer to South Rand for the Communications Academy. And then in that, I had to take like a certain amount of classes in the Communications Academy. And the studio just happened to be one of those classes. So I ended up getting stuck in the studio. Not stuck because...
But kind of.
But not really, because I knew who taught the class. And I knew that I wanted his class. But like I could have cared less what we were learning just because I wanted him as a teacher,
Foreshadowing.
And so, right, yeah, this is crazy. And so then, long story short, I take the studio, and then like really just it's all history from like that first time sitting in that class. It's like crazy to think about how far I've come since that moment. But that moment was honestly like the first thing. Like other than like drawing as a kid and like doing all like the other kid things, it was like the studio was like the first thing for me, which it was crazy.
Yeah, well, I agree. I mean, yeah. Do you remember the like very first project that you did in the studio?
Yeah.
And, like go through that.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess you're talking about like. Are you talking about whenever we had to get like certified in iMovie?
Sure.
Okay, because that was the first thing that we did.
Yeah.
So we did this thing, and we were practicing iMovie, and so we had to use all of these like iMovie features and create this one video or whatever to show that we could like use iMovie or whatever. And so it's crazy that. Because we were just talking about Kiss, but that's what I did my first like iMovie on was the band. And it was like so awful because we had to use like those green screen effects and like the keynote whatever. And then I ended up like stealing a song from online, which I wasn't supposed to do, but it like needed a sound. And so I ended up stealing the Kiss song Rocket Ride. So if Kiss is listening, sorry about that for stealing your music. But yeah, that was the first project that we did, and it was crazy, and it was so fun. I love doing that. But we had to do that to be able to like start on the first project. I think. Yeah. We had to make that little video, so that was a good time.
Mm-hmm. What was funny too, thinking about that, like sidebar. There's so many things that we had to do in that first little video that we never used again.
Never again.
Keynote effect?
Yeah, keynote effect is terrible.
Yeah, but it was the only way to do it in iMovie.
Yeah, I
like
know.
overlays and stuff. Yeah.
It was terrible. It was yikes. I remember yours too because you did I
did the basketball one.
Yeah, the basketball one.
Yeah.
What did you? It was like it fireworks or.
I put like fire above.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was crazy.
Yeah.
Man.
And I remember I spent so long looking for an animated green screen on Google Images because it couldn't be from YouTube because you couldn't get to it.
Yeah.
So I had to go on Google Images and scroll forever for a GIF of fire.
Yeah.
A green. Yeah. Good times.
I know. Yeah, it was. It's a good time. Man.
What was your first like real video project though?
I don't remember.
Don't remember. Neither do I really. I don't think.
I don't remember. But the project that I do like really remember from first year studio was the documentary that we did. Like we had to make like, because we had made like 3 comedic videos or whatever, and then he was like, I want y'all to stop making funny videos and I want you to make something that's serious. You remember that? And
Oh yes, that was right before COVID.
yes.
We didn't. Margaret didn't finish ours.
Yeah, we finished ours, and it was like
Dude,
it was like crazy because he loved it, because we ended up filming it on 2 different days, and one day it was sunny outside, and then one day, like the next day that we filmed, it just happened to be rainy outside, and so with like the B-roll that was going over the actual interview turned like rainy and sad right whenever the interviewee started talking about sadness and stuff.
Hit the home run on that, man.
Yeah, dude, and it was like totally accidental, but he loved it.
Yeah,
and I loved it, and it was good.
Yeah.
It was a good time.
Yeah.
But you know, like what's so crazy, because we made like that first thing that we did at iMovie, it was terrible. It sucked so bad.
Yeah, but I think that was the first video that I ever edited on a computer.
I know. And do you remember how, like, I wouldn't say how good we got in just that first year, but like how much better we got? And we were only there for half of a semester, or we were there for 1 semester.
And it was a huge class, and we didn't do that many projects.
I know.
To be honest, you know?
Because I remember like the last video that we did right before Christmas break, it was...
Oh, mine was Money.
Yeah, yours was so good. And
I found such a good song for that.
And I don't even remember what I did. It was like just like a vlog, I think.
Yeah.
But I remember we had to put the magic shots in there, because we practiced those before, and we had to put one of those in. And I like threw a T-shirt on myself, and like my whole outfit changed. And it was like I'd never done anything like that before, but it was like so sick.
Yeah,
and it was
at
like,
the time.
yeah, you know, it's like so crazy, because at that point we'd only been doing that for what, 3 months, making videos.
Oh, dude, probably less than that. The first project I remember doing in there was True Crime Podcast. That sucked. I hated that project.
Oh, dude,
Because you and I worked together on that.
Yeah, we were in the same group.
I was just completely disinterested in the subject matter. So
Yeah,
that's why I was like, ugh, because we had to like write this big long script.
I know, the script was terrible.
And I didn't care. You know? I just didn't care. But what's funny is we did that about Jeffrey Dahmer, and now he's like the most popular dude.
I know. If we would have like actually tried, our podcast might have just like blew up or something.
I know. Yeah. Yeah, those were the days. That was the first time I ever saw a mixer in my whole life.
Yeah.
Because remember, we insisted. We did not want to use the USB mics. We had to use the big stupid mixer.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a fun time.
I know it was. It was a fun time.
It was. That was a fun project to do. That's money. But then the last question that I want to ask about the studio is, what project from that entire process are you most proud of?
I would say either the mini golf movie was just like something unreal. You know?
Yeah.
It just like
Feels like a fever dream almost.
Everything worked out like so well, I think, in the production of that video, that it just like nothing can really compare to like that whole experience. And you know, and like one thing that like we talk about in art classes at RCCC is what matters more, like the actual piece of art or the experience in making it. And I think like with the mini golf movie, the experience in making the video is like worth way more than the actual video.
Oh, 100%.
And so
But the video is still so good.
Yeah, I know. The video is like spectacular. And dude, it's the only video that I don't think that I would change.
Anything about?
Anything.
Neither would I.
I don't think that I would change a thing. And so...
You edited that video too.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Hey.
Shout out to Caleb.
But just the whole thing about that project was just like so fun. I think like from literally the storyboard process, like that first day that we got the prompt and like we picked our group and we were like sitting at that table and we were thinking about what we were going to do.
And it was COVID and we were so far apart. You remember that?
Yeah.
It was like a long table.
And we were like, what in the world can we do?
Mm-hmm.
And we were like, let's make a video about golf, because we were like, we just started playing or whatever, and we were like, well, how in the world are we going to do that? We were like, mini golf.
Yeah.
And then we're like, let's remake dodgeball,
Basically.
mini golf version.
Yeah.
And we made this whole storyboard, and that whole like the storyboarding process, the like who's going to be what character, like what is this character going to look like, what are they going to sound like, you know, like what is the end of this going to be, like the whole process was just like so good. And I think like storyboarding like that and having the idea that we had and like being like us three being so committed to the idea, I think.
Oh, dude, yeah.
And just like going and shooting and following the storyboard like shot for shot, you know, and like obviously improvising here and there, but like at the end of the day we like followed the storyboard like pretty spot on. So like that made capturing it so much easier, and it made editing it so much easier, and I think like all those things going into that, it just all works so well. And then to like the people laughing whenever they watched it, it was just like something unreal. But I think like, oh, dude, I don't know, because like thinking back on it, I don't think that I could be more proud than how I was whenever I showed that video.
Yeah.
But I also like our final project in that class too.
That was money too. I think that the mini golf movie is better than that, just because we had a bigger, like amount of people for the final project, and at least for me, that became more of a like a managing job than a creating job for me.
Yeah.
In that situation. So
Yeah.
But like you said, like with the mini golf movie, I literally don't think I would change anything.
Yeah.
There are definitely things probably that I would change about the final that we did in that at the time, you know. But
Yeah.
but still, that final project was like such a moment. Like you just said, like, is the process more important than the final piece? For Dear South, the process was 150% more valuable than the actual piece of art at the end.
Oh yeah.
Because that was a crazy process, you know?
Yeah, it
we
was.
literally spent like a month and a half on what ended up being like a 5-minute video.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy. But those two projects, I think, definitely. And then, I don't know, if you would consider, like, what we did broadcasting-wise, a project, I mean,
I would.
pretty proud of that, too.
Yeah.
Just because of how far we brought that to in just 1 year. Dude, it's
in
crazy
just November.
to see where we started, like sitting there with one snowball microphone because we couldn't get the other one to work, and like an iPad.
Yeah.
It's so crazy to see where it ended, you know, with like a soundboard and
with a $10,000 grant.
Yeah, and like these cool headphones with the microphones on them, so whenever we turned our heads, the microphone would follow us, and like a camera that is like absolutely insane. It was just like unreal too.
Yeah.
But and like to like literally the whole process behind that too, like being able to iron that out was so cool. And then with the administration being so willing to like work with us and get us the things that we needed or like just wanted, you know, it was so
That
crazy.
was a time.
It was so crazy.
Yeah.
It was so cool. Very thankful for that.
Yeah, for sure. That was like a super interesting time, which is what is like the most interesting thing. I think that the reason why broadcasting was a project is because we literally every single like game it changed a little bit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like some element of the process was slightly changed, which was obviously pretty dope.
Yeah.
You know? And that was the time. That is, well, actually, I'll ask you this too. Since leaving high school in the studio, first of all, do you think that the studio set you up for success for like future creative endeavors?
Definitely.
Okay. That's an easy question. Next up, though, is like, how much do you think that you've progressed since leaving the studio as a creator? Go.
That's is this the one?
No. I have one.
Wow.
Yeah.
I would say a lot. Just because like I think that I don't want to say that I found my style, but I think like I definitely have experimented with more things, especially like getting into photography, which I didn't do in the studio, and like getting into, I guess, what you can consider like video art, you know, like having to make like serious videos for like a serious videography class or whatever. I think like being able to work in those conditions has definitely like changed the way that I think about things.
Music too?
Definitely music too. And like music was something that I was doing in high school, but not
the same way.
Not the same way. I mean, I've definitely grown as a musician, as a guitar player. I'm like 100 times better than I was then, so I think whenever you think about everything that I kind of do and what I'm good at, I guess you can say, and what I enjoy doing the most, there's a lot of things that I didn't do in the studio that I do now. Like one thing that I did not enjoy doing in the studio was podcasting. Like I didn't enjoy that.
It's a very different medium there than it is here, though.
Right,
with that said, but.
and so like I think like with this and everything that I'm doing now is all so different than the things that I was actually creating in school. And I think that's just because like now there's no real rubric, of like whenever you are creating something in school, like in college, it's not like, okay, here's like everything that has to be included in this project. Like it's not that. It's more or less like, okay, here's like a prompt or whatever, like go do whatever you want to do, and like that's kind of how it is. And so it's not like you're in one class where you're trying to create on all different mediums. It's like you're in specific classes that are creating in those. So right. Instead of being in like one class that you have to do like a couple podcasts and a couple videos and a couple digital design projects, right. It's like now you're in a digital design class and you're in a video class and you're in a
podcasting class,
right?
Sure. Yeah.
And so I think that is one way that I've grown as a creator, is getting just a deeper diving into the things that I enjoy more, and like being able to find those things.
Mm-hmm. And then finally, for the creative category here, is what do you think your favorite project is that you've ever made? Well, that you've made since leaving high school, across all of your mediums.
Yeah. So I did this photography project. It's called The Hands That Carried Me. And so I photographed like just hands, and well, it wasn't just hands, but it was like a 25 picture like series or whatever, whatever you want to call it. And the first picture was a tree in a backyard, like in my backyard, with like a white picket fence around it, just like this tree. It was like during the springtime, so nice and leaves and flowers and stuff. And then like the next picture was a picture of like somebody's hands. So like I ended up shooting not like but like,
right. Yeah.
Oh, that was the worst camera sound I've ever made of us. Oh my gosh. My mom's hands and my dad's hands, my girlfriend's hands, my sister's hands. I think I did like my grandparents' hands and my dog's hands and like all these people's hands. And so like in between the pictures of hands, I went out into nature and took pictures of roots, like roots representing like family tree roots and all this stuff. And so like the whole, like looking back and like thinking back on the project, it was like a super good idea to like take a picture of the tree inside of the fence in the yard, because that like I shot my family's hands, and like all these people who had like an influence on me, like family wise. And so like in my backyard, there's this tree, which represents like my family tree, inside of this fence, which is like my backyard, which represents like my family's life, But then like on the outside of that is like everything else, and like everybody else's trees and everybody else's fences and all these things. And so like as the series went on, you get like roots and roots and roots and roots. And then the last picture in the series is like a forest. And it's like, even though like everyone has their own family tree and like their own white picket fence life and all these things, it's like at the end of the day, like we're all just like trees in the forest, and like we're all connected at the roots, And so it was like a super killer project. Mm-hmm. It was like so fun to make and like so fun to like show and like talk about. It was so good.
Yeah.
It was so much fun.
Boom.
Yeah, that's definitely the one that I'm the most proud of. And it's crazy because that's one of like the early photo projects that I did. It was like my final in photography 1.
Sure.
But like
that was still like 6 months ago. Or a bit longer than that?
Yeah, it's been.
Was that first year of college?
Yeah, it was first semester, first year of college.
Oh,
so
dude,
it's been
that
over
was
a year.
forever ago. Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy that like, because have you taken a photography class since then?
I'm in one right now.
Okay, so there's still a chance, I guess, to top that. But I was thinking like, that's a while ago.
Yeah.
To like, I just didn't know if you were like in another photography class or not. Interesting. Do you think that those photo projects just like set you up for success when it comes down to like really well thought out things like that? Because what you just described is like very well thought out.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And like with the finals is the toughest part because there's no prompt. You know, it's like all right, now it's the end of the semester. We have 2 months left. Now you get like 2 months to work on this one project. You know, so you get a lot of time.
Yeah.
But it's like you can do anything that you want. But earlier in the semester, we did a project that was called A Day in the Life, and you had to like pick somebody or a thing and like do like a day in the life photography project. And I ended up doing my mom, and like one of the pictures that I put in the series of photos was a picture of her like hand turning off the alarm clock or whatever. And like my instructor loved the picture, and so he was like, I really want you to like work around this, and like I want you to form a whole project off of like this one picture. And I was like, okay. And so like that's what I ended up coming up with.
Mm-hmm.
And like looking back on it, I would not change a thing about like that whole project just because I think that it all worked out. But yeah, I think it definitely does set you up for success, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. That is an interesting. I love that day in the life prompt. I think that is genius.
Yeah, it's so good.
Because that is such a good way to like take photos. I feel like is a good way to think through, like, because sometimes this is the problem I think with a lot of, especially digital, because like we can just take photos whenever we want, anytime, basically. And like there's no like penalty to that. Whereas like if we were shooting on film, you only have so much film. Like you only have so much storage. But it's like I keep 128 gigs on my camera. You're never filling that up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially not with photos. No chance you're filling that up.
Right.
You know? But like whenever because of that, you can like capture like moments in time. And like since we have so much accessibility to like take so much, like 128 gigabytes worth of photos, that's like so much time. You know? That day in the life prompt is super good. That's like super interesting prompt.
Yeah, I really like that one.
Yeah.
I really like that one.
That was a really good job by your instructor there. All right. This is the last question that I have. And this was the one that I thought was going to like stump you. We'll see, I guess.
Okay.
But here we go. So, obviously, you and I have worked together on a lot of things over the past however long, 3 years maybe, something like that. We've worked on a lot of projects. Obviously, this is probably the main one, and by probably I mean definitely the main one. So I wanted to ask, like, in the future, as long as however far your foresight wants to be for the sake of this question, what is the dream?
You know, there's like no exact answer to that question, but I will say, like, definitely a life that has creating in it is for me 100%. I really don't care what kind of means that is creating wise, whether it's like doing like literally anything is cool with me, you know. I think that this is gonna like sound like so like cliche and
Sure.
like dumb, I guess, but it's like really how I feel. You know, it's like as long as I can like do anything that I love, you know, whether and like there are so many things that I love, you know, and as long as I can like do one of those things and then be able to like make a living off of whatever it is, like, and not, I wouldn't say like not have to worry about money, but like not have to worry about where the money is going to come from for the next meal, or like how in the world I'm going to make the next house payment, you know, like just like that kind of stuff, because anybody can want more money or whatever. But I think like whenever I can make a living off of creating something, that's the dream. And like it doesn't matter where I am, it doesn't matter like what it is that I'm doing, as long as I'm doing something that I love and I can make a living off of that, I think that's the dream.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's the Caleb Nesbitt interview.
Thank you.
I think that was money.
Yeah, that's a killer. That was killer. That's a good interview.
Yeah.
That was a good interview.
There you go. See, there's no reason to be nervous, I guess, huh?
No, there was.
But there's no way to tell until the end.
You know, that's so crazy because we've talked in a microphone together for so long, and 50 weeks. That's crazy, but not once have we sat down and interviewed each other.
No,
and like not one time have I been on another podcast ever being interviewed. You know,
I don't think I've ever been interviewed even off of a podcast.
I have, except for a job.
Typically, it's us doing the interviews.
Yeah,
this is normally our thing.
Yeah, and so it's so crazy having an interview done because like you don't know how or like what kind of questions they're going to come up with or like what your answer is going to be, but you did a killer job.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the interview.
Of course.
And I hope that you guys enjoyed the interview too. I hope that you enjoyed getting to know me a little bit better. Next week you get to know Austin a little bit better. Hopefully I can conduct just as good as an interview as he did. But yeah, this was really fun.
It was really fun. Maybe we need to do this like more often.
Yeah.
Not like, super consistently. Anyway, whatever. Thank you guys so much for listening. Like Caleb said, next week it's me on the mic. And I mentioned foreshadowing at a certain point in this podcast. So that's the 1 year special. Anybody who knows, I suppose. And if they don't, then that is what it is. Thank you guys so much for listening to this week's episode of Caddy Corner. We are back every single Friday where we talk about information and spreading knowledge, which we did in this episode. Not in the traditional Caddy Corner way, but we still did. So this is kind of the vibe for the main show, if you will. We also do a show every Wednesday, Caddy Corner After Hours, where we talk about whatever we want for as long as we want to. I'm Austin. He's Caleb, and we will see you all next week.
Peace.